Hi everyone, Mark Roberts here from Film Hustlers. Just want to thank everyone for tuning in. We are closing out on our 4th season of the show. I think we had a very successful one. We made Beautiful Darkness, which is making the festival runs now, raised all of the money on the show, and used all of our resources that we tell you guys about every week. So I just want to thank you for tuning in, remind you to rate us, to leave us a comment on Instagram, to share the different shows with your friends. We're happy to be doing it, and hopefully we will do it for many, many more years. I wanted to also thank our sponsor, extrememusic.com. I want to congratulate them on an amazing service. Russ Emanuel and his team have done a great job of curating some of the best composed music you will find anywhere. I, as a producer, use them on Netflix movies, on Lifetime movies, on anything I work on. So check them out. They are the best in the business, and they will certainly make your project sound much better. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Film Hustlers. You know what? I really like the new name, Film Hustlers. It's not even the new name anymore. We've had it for a season, I guess. But I like Film Hustlers. It totally represents who we are. Absolutely, 100%.
What happened to Let's Get Into It?
Let's Get Into It was kind of cool, too.
That was the first one. Then it got turned to Let's Get Into Entertainment.
No one knew what they were. They were like, let's get into it. What's that about? Like, Film Hustlers, at least you know what people are talking about.
True that.
Today, I want to get into it right away.
Well, let's get into it, Film Hustler.
Yeah.
That's right.
Maurice Compte is his name. He's an amazing actor. He's a producer, too. I guess you're a writer, too.
All right. I dabble.
You kind of do it all, but welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah, good to have you, bro.
Thanks. I've known you guys collectively for almost my career.
Yeah.
You guys have been in my world from the very beginning, so it's kind of great that we're sitting here. I
don't want to name everything, but you were in Breaking Bad, but most importantly, you were Coronel Carrillo in Narcos.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm a huge. I knew you before, but I'm a huge fan of the work that you did in Narcos, and I mean, me personally as a viewer, it was the single most like important character I had seen in a TV show like in years. I would say like 10 years. You hadn't seen a character like that captured you, that was so committed to finding this dude. Like I was so with you.
Yeah.
And when you died, I was devastated.
Spoiler alert, bro.
Come on, man. So if you didn't see it, you fucked up.
I watched the whole movie, and I've known you for a while. And at the end of the movie, when I was looking at the credits, I didn't realize that you were playing that character. Can you believe that? That's how good you were in it.
Which movie?
It was the cop movie with Michael Pena and Jake Gyllenhaal.
End of Watch.
End of Watch. I called you I texted you right after that. I was like, holy shit. Like, I had no idea.
He's been in Dust at Dawn, the series. I mean, Hawaii Five-0, Narcos. I mean, look him up. Breaking Bad, amazing. Southland, amazing work. We've known each other because when I started as a young indie filmmaker in the mid-'90s, I met you, I met Mario, I met Efren Figueroa. You know, tremendous actor.
He says no to you a lot too, doesn't he?
You know what? After we did East Side, I offered him something and he passed.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't take any of that personal because sometimes people don't want to do shit. You know, you can't just because you know an actor doesn't mean he's going to do it.
True,
you know? That's a fact. And by the way, you don't want them doing something they don't really deeply want to do, right? But yeah, we've known each other for a long time. When I was doing East Side as a super young filmmaker, I want to say that the word on the street, even back then, was this guy is deadly serious about his acting. I remember like it was floating around the office like, if we can get Maurice, man. You did bring like a very unique thing to the character even back then. And you must have been, I don't know, you early 20s?
Yeah, I may have been about 20, 22.
Yeah, you were super young, and you were borrowing like my watch and my necklace, and you'd borrow shit from people from all over the set. And what I found funny is that you would like accessorize yourself from the people around you, not from wardrobe, not from. And every day you did it. Every day you did it. But yeah, I mean, look, you've had an amazing career. People have always talked wonderful things about like your commitment, your acting. It shows in Narcos. Like me personally, like I was saying, I'm such a huge fan. What is it that has kept you in the game? And now you're producing, and we're going to talk about your show. But what has kept you going?
I think I love dynamics. I love wondering how people work. I love backward engineering human thought into action. I think I've done that since I've been a kid. I mean, I would see I grew up in Miami in the 80s, and a lot of people would do a lot of reckless things, but you would see them in their recklessness, and I don't know, I would sense feelings. Sometimes, you know, you can sense aggression, or sometimes you can sense sadness beyond aggression. And I would always try to backward engineer and wonder what his home life was like, and wonder if I knew his kid, what their kid, from what I saw, how that kid got to be that way through that parent. Those things would consume me. Like, I would always be thinking about people in those ways, like just trying to understand them. I think my growing up was unique, and it was different. You know, I was raised with my grandparents and stuff. And, you know, Latin people, Cubans and stuff, it's like Mexicans, you know, like all Latin people, from what I understand, like especially the older generations, they stay together. You know, come hell or high water, they're just together, hating each other, loving each other,
apologizing.
They're in it. You know what I mean? But I was raised with my grandmother, and I felt like a bit like of an outcast. And I think in first trying to figure out where I fit in, where I belonged, I would look at people and I would understand how that and that makes, you know, this kid, whether he was like the most popular kid in school, and then you come home with him and you understand like that, you know, his mom's a drunk and is trying to hit on his friends in junior high, and it's just like, and you're like, oh, and then you add that into the mix and you understand this kid better, and then you can relate to him in a very, that was me. I was always just taking things in and understanding it. I don't know where it would go inside of me, but when I would read things, I would do the same thing. I'd be like, all right, so we got Big Evil. Let's understand him and his mom. All right, they had to flee. They were being searched for. Like, he came here. He was scared. He decided to take, you know, he maybe got beat up a few times and decided, all right, me and my boys are going to go to this guy that beat me up and kill him, and this is going to be the beginning. And I just started creating mentally these realistic stories so that when I'm sitting somewhere and you're watching me, I'm not just idle waiting for you to pitch me the line. I'm thinking about this story that at home I just wrote out and created, so that I'm as if it's my real life story, and I loved getting immersed and lost in those kind of things, you know.
You were telling us a story about your new project. What is the new project?
Well, I grew up in Miami in the 80s. My dad was a cocaine cowboy. Like, when you watch the Narcos series, docu-series, Hotel Cocaine, well, it's all based around the club called The Mutiny. Well, my dad was the general manager of that nightclub. Wow. My dad ran it. And I learned how to swim in that pool with my grandmother would take me on Saturdays. And in the cabanas were every prolific drug dealer that now comes out in that Narcos series every Saturday morning, and they would be there with champagne and coke with fat mustaches and Carrera glasses, being like, "Ay, qué lindo el niño, míralo nada." And I would be like, "Kite, kite, kite." My brother would be there. My grandmother would order a club sandwich. We were piss poor still. Yeah. You know, it was the beginning of and the whole story of my dad is interesting because my dad was a singer who gave up singing, and then through events that you may or may not find out in the series, he came into this nightclub, but musicians loved him and regarded him, and also knew that he was now friendly with the narco world. So you had musicians from, say, Venezuela that were coming down to perform, and you know, they would go to my dad and be like, "Yo, so I brought a kilo with me. You think you can help me get rid of it? I'm sorry. And my dad would be like, he knew he was a fucking starving artist in Cuba. But like, my dad sang at the Capri. But my dad was a busboy at a place called Les Violines. Santos used to come over and say hello to my dad. Then my dad got up on stage one day and rocked the fucking house. There's a whole story around my dad, which, you know, Los Chavales de España came to audition my dad. He got in. Long story. But he gave up singing, never to sing again, because of something that occurred. And that's, you know, with my mom. My mom was interesting. My mom passed when I was very young. But yeah, my dad was like, let me see what I can do. And, you know, you sell a key for one of these musicians. Like, it's funny because you imagine them. Here we go now, backward engineering. You imagine them in their country being like, "You're so and so. Take a picture with me." And the guy's like, "Yeah, come on, get the fucking stuff in the airplane. Come on." Hey, he takes a picture with everybody. Just one key. He brings it in, and if you sell that key, he makes more money for that year than he will in the next 3 years singing in his country,
Right.
because the economy is so bad.
Right.
So my dad knew that, and a lot of these guys became big. And they would say, "What's up?" to my dad, and they knew my dad. But my dad had a lot of shame that he had given up on singing, because my dad got asked to be the lead singer of a very famous band. And my mom kind of put the kibosh on it. And my dad said, "I'm never going to sing again." And then the whole mutiny thing opened. And, you know, my dad had been involved in stuff in Cuba. You know, my grandparents put bombs, and my dad did too, and they were looking to kill my dad. It's a very interesting story about how my dad got out of Cuba, and, you know, the early days of you know, the patriotism. And, you know, there was supposed to be a second wave of an invasion into Cuba, supposedly, that began to materialize in my dad's nightclub. That's how the club got into being. Now the CIA, the oligarchs of Cuba that lost their Firestones and their United Fruit Company because of Castro. Well, they got together with the mafia, who got kicked out because of their nightclub, their casinos. And they decided, okay, we're going to see if we can fund this thing by ourselves with the help of the CIA. The CIA said, okay, let's take all these pot runners and let's turn all of their pot routes into cocaine routes. We'll give them, you know, they'll make money, we'll make money, and we'll start to fund this thing. This is the beginning of the war on drugs. So when they decided to start a war on drugs, and they're like, we're going to send American troops into Colombia to get drug dealers. Well, guess what? You never heard about them busting any drug dealers. Maybe, you know, Noriega, who worked for the CIA,
Right.
Pablo Escobar, who worked for the CIA, when they were of no more use. But the whole time they were there, they didn't bust anybody. And that's because there was a place called the Caño Limon oil pipeline that some of the American oligarchs bought, and the FARC kept bombing. And every time we would send people in to go, well, these corporations would send people in to repair it. It was a 400 or 1600, it was a huge pipeline that went all the way to the Gulf. Every time they would send people in to fix it, they would get kidnapped for $5 million. Jeez. And they paid until they said, we don't negotiate with terrorists, and they would kill them. But they started to fix the oil pipeline. So the only way you could do this was to get a president to approve sending people to look for drug dealers. But while you're there, maybe take a look at the pipeline. Make sure that nobody's fucking with it, because these paramilitary guys, the FARC, yeah, they're creating drugs. Really what happened was that they were pissed that the Colombians sold their interest to the Americans for 40 years. Like, China's doing this right now. China's going into places like Africa, they're very poor countries, and they're like, yo, we're going to build you guys a state-of-the-art port. And you guys are going to own this thing for the next 40, 50 years. But then it's ours, okay? We're up against corporations that are thinking 100 years down the road. I'm only saying this in context of what my father's story is, which is the beginning of the war on drugs, which we already have realized that
bullshit.
It's bullshit. But we have to understand the origins of this bullshit and why this bullshit was created, because a lot of people got very wealthy off of this bullshit. Yeah. They know how to play both sides of it.
Over and over again, by the way.
Over and over
again.
Over and over.
After one group came in and left, like another group came in and did it again, and then they did. I mean, by the way, I love Cocaine Cowboys. It's one of my favorite documentaries of all time.
So everybody in Miami back in those days, they had their, you know, like it was a two-step. You know, you not only dealt drugs, but you also had to have your money laundering operation.
Right. Yeah.
You got to turn old money into clean money. So my brother was actually one of the youngest bank officers at the notorious Sunshine State Bank. It's in the middle of like the big savings and loan scandal of the 80s. My brother was a 16-year-old bank officer signing off on bogus bank loans, which it's literally the part in Scarface where they're bringing in.
I was just going to say that.
That was
the guys looking through the window.
My brother's true job was to valet park Willie and Sal's car. They would come in and sit in a room with no windows and count the money before or after the machine, because they would use a 2-step process. So my brother would come in. My brother to this day is the fastest money counter I know. He can count money like nobody's business. But he would come in with his fingers green from just, that was his job, sit in the room and just, you know.
So your dad's running the mutiny, your brother's laundering the money, and you're swimming in the pool.
My dad got my brother the money. No, my brother didn't launder the money. My dad was like, yo, you got to get a fucking job.
Yeah.
So he talked to his friend Ray Corona, and
job.
Ray got him a job at the bank. And my brother was like a 16-year-old driving an Eldorado Cadillac, and he would show up to work every fucking day, super late. Long story short, but everybody back then, my dad had a flower shop. That was my dad's gig. My dad had a flower shop. Basically, because in the end, like as long as you prove receipts, you know, and you have like a cash business, you can just bring that cash business. As long as you're paying taxes, you could be dealing drugs or it doesn't matter. As long as you're paying taxes, you kind of stave things off a little bit,
right?
You know, and I mean, there's just so many. There's so many wonderful things.
Was that the bank in Scarface? Was that the bank?
There's too many banks. There was a Bank Miami. There was too many banks. There were several banks that were all involved, and it was mainly the three branch type banks that did those kind of things.
Eventually, you just cannot launder that much money.
No, eventually you can launder that much money and become a billionaire, and then other people. I was just. You know mafia stories. Like there was this mafia story about this guy who he did some scam with the gas stations.
Yeah, we're gonna have him on X, Michael Francesi,
and he was making like $8 million a week for the mob, and he was like the youngest guy that they turned into a made man. Yeah, it's like that's it. That's the CIA. The CIA is like, hey, you're going to be a made man over here. You're making $8 million. Hey, come on, you're in with us.
Well, like, he's like running wine business. He's got an amazing story.
That guy's fantastic.
Yeah.
But that's it. And it's like that's one of the things that I love is that it's a hustler's world and it's a hustler's game. In this country, like you can come with nothing and just hustle your way to the top. You really can. You can. But when you get to the top, what then? Like, what do? You just keep going and you just like run over? Like, that's the part I don't understand, because there's a quality of life. There's a saying that like with sobriety and stuff, that like people that come from nothing have a better chance of becoming sober and staying sober because they have something to look forward to. They're like, well, if I quit drinking and doing drugs, I get a good job and I have a good house and I'll make more money and they do. They get sober, they're not on the street anymore. But people that are wealthy and they have nothing to look forward to, they get sober and they're like, what? Now I got a bunch of responsibility? Like what? Now I gotta go put coffee and I gotta just take care of some other drunk guy and like I gotta go speak at a prison with smelly people. Like the incentives are there, but it's a quality of life thing, and it's like, what are you enjoying, and where's your focus, and what do you?
Why is it though that every major successful millionaire, billionaire drug dealer, in the end gets caught with like a bag of money buried outside in the backyard, and like all the money, money in the walls, and they all get taken by other people, and then the banks are like, oh, he got caught, so fucking we're done with it. Like all of a sudden all of that business that he did and all the good faith that he did is gone, like that. It's
a business mentality. You become myopic. You start to see the price of everything and the value of nothing. And everything is reducible, everything is replaceable, and in the end, like, if your kids are too much of a hassle, you tell them to fuck off. Like, you don't really have a connection with anything but money, respect, prestige. You have those things that are...
And you can't have it forever.
And then you get old, and then you get sick, and then you get a cancer, and then your kid gets hit by a truck. Some bullshit happens. And, that's... I'm hoping, and that's the hopeful part of me, is that there's some sort of awakening in people where we're like... All right, well, I grew up with my dad. He was making money hand over fist, but I don't remember him being happy. He laughed a lot, and he spent a lot, and he had a bunch of chicks, but was he ever happy? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And the guy who's writing it is the guy who was the creator of Narcos, Chris Brancato.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He's the guy running the show. I'm doing a play in a month or two. I'm actually going back. I have a lot of great things happening. Like the show is one of the great things that I have. But I've gotten involved in meaningful things in my life, and I think my life has begun to change. I still act. I still love getting involved in characters. I still love process. That's why I'm grateful that I'm going back to doing a little theater while all of this stuff is happening. And I still care very much about enfranchising the disenfranchised soul, the guy who feels like an outsider. I'm still wondering whether I belong, even when people are telling me how great I am. Because I know that when it stops, if I'm really focused on that and I don't have it, it'll become like a drug to me.
Right.
And I've needed to, I've been through those highs and lows already. And I'm learning how to find joy in other things.
Yeah. What's the name of your show? What's the name of the show that you're going to be doing about your dad?
Hotel Cocaine. My good friend Danny Pino plays my father.
Oh, I love Danny Pino.
Danny, Yul Vasquez plays his brother, whom my dad had no brother. Really, it's based around the club and that nightclub itself. That nightclub is a character, and that nightclub is prolific. The people that came through that doors, I mean, you had Crosby, Still, Led Zeppelin, Bob Marley. I mean, like Liza Minnelli, Desi Arnaz. Like, they would go and party there. And really the way that it started with that nightclub, it was the place where the Philly mob, snowbirds, it would come down and spend their summers. Yeah. It was a very private club. In fact, it was private because they didn't want riffraff coming in. There was one Cuban guy who was allowed in. His name was Rudy Redbeard. And he was allowed in to the club. And he was a pot runner. And he was one of the first guys who did the switcheroo and became huge. Part of it is really being able to tell a larger story about the corporatizing and the politicizing of the drug wars.
Yeah, well, that's what's going to make it a success. Similar to The Godfather. I think that when there's a deeper sort of understanding about what happened, what was going on politically, and for the people around it, I mean, it sounds really interesting. I can't wait to see it. But the story you told today, I'd never heard before, though. The idea that people were flying in to perform at this club, and they were bringing a key with them to sell. Yeah. I mean, that's fucking that alone is just.
I mean, this is Miami in the '80s, man, and there was like 40, 50,000.
And really innocently, right? Hey, you think you can get rid of this from?
Well, like he said, like that's like the cop when you go to. I remember going to TJ when I was younger, and the cops, hey, $20 or whatever. $20 is a lot of money to them. You know what I mean? They're gonna, you pull over, 5 or 6 American kids, get $20 from each of them. That's more money than you make in a month, 2 months down there.
Back in those days, $50,000 American.
Back in those days, right now it's a lot, but of course.
But I'm saying back in those days, 50,000. Wherever these guys,
Yeah. So you can't really blame them.
No, you can't blame them.
It's easy peasy, dude.
There's no blaming them unless you have a moral issue with the fact that people do drugs.
Right.
People do drugs.
Supply and demand.
People do drugs. My whole life, people do drugs. So it's like, yeah, they do drugs. They have drugs over there. I mean, people used to go to Amsterdam just smoke weed.
Yeah. Now you could do it in West Hollywood.
You can just do it in Venice or wherever you want. Just do it right outside the parking lot next to the sheriff's. But I mean, it doesn't matter. But people do drugs, and it's like, it's not a thing. It's not a thing until you make it a thing, and unless it's your personal thing because you have an issue with it, which I completely respect. Then it's a thing. But
then it's just a means to an end. Your show sounds amazing. It's super cool that it's about your dad and it's about your life and about
dad,
yeah.
Dude.
I mean,
funny.
that's how. Yeah. But how cool is that like your career intertwined with your family life and your dad.
That's life. I mean, I'm about to go to Miami to do a play. I have a pretty amazing. I don't know how much time we have, but I have an amazing story about how I got this play. David Mamet helped me to get this play.
What?
It was huge. And I'm working with Nilo Cruz, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright.
What's the name of the play?
It's called Two Sisters and a Piano, and I'm performing it, oddly enough, in the theater that I went to go see Danny Pino perform Romeo and Juliet for the first time, and the Juliet was a girl who I had, she was my girlfriend for many years, but I didn't know her then. I had just seen Danny, and I thought they were both amazing, and I said, one day I hope I come here as a lead of a play. It would be amazing.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well, you manifested that. That's what happened.
Here it is. Well, I mean, I'm on Instagram enough to know how to manifest. Basics.
That's cool. Though. Congratulations on the play. I mean, it's nice that you keep coming back to the theater. You think it's important to the work you do?
I think there's there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. I think for me, I love process. And I love the long process of things. I love the getting involved in rehearsals, and I love debating, and I love talking about things and understanding different perspectives. Theater allows you to do that, and you're doing it with other people, and in it you're building a relationship to the person, to the stage, to the actor, to the audience. You're building, and you understand what the feeling of having something built from inside yourself. You understand that feeling of what that feels like. You're not just in this kind of mode where you're aware of how you're being perceived, just, which a lot of the times it happens when you can kind of do a quick character for a TV show or a film, and you just come in with something and it's like, how am I being perceived? How's the camera looking on? Like, no. What's the internal life talking about? Like, it's a difference between a fire and embers burning slow and steady and hot for a long time than a quick fire that just comes in and blades and burns itself out. The process for me is what creates the embers inside of you, where your brain just clicks into that. So for me, it's essential to be part of theater.
That's cool.
As well, whether it's, and having other practices, whether it's writing, journaling. I've also found, and I haven't been doing it as much, but I used to do it a lot, and I think about going back to it. Being a service is a big one. I didn't realize how amazing it is, but one time my friend took me to the Mission in downtown to go feed, to be part of a soup kitchen. And I was like, oh God, I'm going to do it and be done. And then I kept going back, and I kept going back, and I couldn't understand why I was going back, but it took me a while to realize that I was actually feeling good. Like I was feeling a sense of the same sense that you feel in theater, which is the embers inside you just lighting up. They were lighting up for a different reason and in a different way, but they were lighting up. I was connected to something. There was something larger in me, and I was part of a process of life, of a larger life than my own. I really love that.
That's cool.
Like, that's life for me.
That's what giving back is like, man. That's awesome. You're an incredible talent. Like, I'm sure that that what you bring to the business is unique and special, because you bring something to a pitch, or you bring something to a script, or you bring something to a day on Narcos. Whatever you brought to those days, you moved a bunch of people. You moved the needle for the network. A bunch of people made a bunch of money.
How crazy is that? I never think in those terms.
But it was all about your process and what you brought to it, and what people saw in your eyes and in the performance of the Coronel. And I think there should be a lot of peace in you about that. I think that you're a special performer. You're a special creator. That gets put away in a special place that it's true. I sometimes I feel that way. I mean, sometimes I feel that we have to be better than executives. Executives are sitting there waiting for you to come up with 10 times a better idea than they ever thought of. That's the whole game, right? Is to be better than the people that are running the thing. If you're not, then they're going to be just, that's fine, whatever. But you continuously do that, whether you're acting, producing, or creating. So congratulations, dude, on your career. Thank you for coming in and chatting with us. Shout out to extrememusic.com for their support, letting us do this.
Whoop, whoop.
Russ Emanuel and Extreme Music has been with us hosting and supporting our podcast since we started.
Yeah.
And we just want to shout out to them. But you guys should check it out, extrememusic.com, for all your music needs. They're amazing.
Yeah.
But thank you for being here. Let's do it again.
Yeah, for sure, because there's way more.
So much more to talk about.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you got to go deep, man.
Yeah,
you have to talk about, what's going on, like in the fire of your heart when it comes to this kind of work.
Yeah.
I think it was really neat. I'm really inspired. more to come.
More to come.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank
You got to come back, Mo.
Let's
back.
get into it.
Film Hustlers, fool.
Thanks, guys. See you next time. That was awesome.
That's
Yeah.
good.
We're gonna go long. We're gonna go long on this.